Welcome in episode 18, Hard Knocks. Couple frustrating 24 hours after watching that basketball game, huh, Lo?
Oh my God! Yeah,
That was. I'd rather
yes.
watch. Literally anything. So we got a big show today. We got let's see, SEC championship review. We have a guest coming in. We haven't had a guest since Maurer, I don't think. But we got a Purdue writer coming in, going to answer some questions from us about the Music City Bowl. What do you want to talk about first? I guess SEC championship game, right? A little bit of conference games last weekend. I don't think nobody really expected what happened in Atlanta. Lo, go ahead and get us started with this. What do you think about that game particularly, and did they get the college football playoff right?
Well, first of all, one thing I didn't expect was how high scoring it was. I definitely thought it was going to be more of a low scoring game, and I thought it would be a lot closer. Bryce Young played one of the best games I've seen him play this year. I mean, he had 421 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and for the longest, I've felt that he was not like a big standout candidate. But that game, that was definitely one of the best games I've watched him play. Alabama put up 41 on Georgia. That was pretty shocking. But in the end, I was kind of teeter-tottering on who I was going to bet. But I did bet Alabama money on, and I got some money from that, so I was happy. In terms of I'm sick of Alabama winning everything. I know everyone's like, half people are split. They're like, well, let's, affiliate with the SEC. And then at the same time, I'm so sick of Alabama winning everything. In terms of the playoff, I saw some people saying Michigan should be number one. I absolutely do not think so. I don't see any reason why. I think Alabama should have been number one for beating the number one team. In terms of the other shit, I think it was just kind of placed that way so that they didn't have another immediate Alabama-Georgia matchup. But that's just kind of my take on the whole thing. I was just happy to win some money.
Bandit, you're up, buddy.
All right. Saban's going to Saban. That's about all I really got to say about it. But obviously, I started digging into this thing, and one thing led to another. I think Georgia lost it because of their offense, and I think, it should have been known. Georgia fans probably get tired of hearing this, but that Stetson Bennett dude, he's never going to cut the mustard. And then you go look, they got Stetson Bennett and JT Daniels. I really don't think Georgia has a quarterback that can win a big game. Even that JT Daniels kid, I don't remember the whole story on that, but I know we were in on him. And that's the year that I think Pruitt ended up bringing in Hooker towards the end of that year. That was Pruitt's last year, I think. But Georgia's got to find some offense. And I know that sounds weird because obviously, they've been beating everybody, but they've got Todd Monken at OC. Started digging into him. 2018, he was the Tampa Bay Bucks offensive coordinator. They went 5-11. 2019, offensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns, 6-10. 2020, they came to Georgia, and I get it. They win games, but that offense, it just hasn't really looked big and flashy since Jim Chaney left. I think Georgia needs to look into their offensive coordinator this offseason.
I've said this from the beginning that from a Tennessee fan standpoint, from a talking shit standpoint, the 1980 thing. Now, we needed to pull for Bama. Now, probably they're going to have to beat them twice. And I've also said it all year that the one team that could match up to Georgia was Alabama. Now, we'll see if Michigan can hold with them. I personally don't think. We'll see if they can match up with them in a few weeks. Somebody mentioned Ohio State. I guess we won't find out if they could. You know, when you play an average QB, eventually it's going to show. He's fine for them, and he's fine for 12 weeks of an SEC schedule when not playing Bama. But I've never been a Stetson Bennett guy. You know, he does what he needs to do for them, but it showed up Saturday. One thing that rubbed me the wrong way and on the timeline was, and I'm not trying to be a Georgia homer and I'm not trying to do this and do that, but for 12 weeks, we claimed that Georgia was the best team in the country. Well, as soon as they get beat by the third-ranked team, all of a sudden we have this argument that, you know, Georgia shouldn't be in the playoff, which is just asinine, just stupid. And then we talk about how they haven't played anybody. Well, then on the flip side, if you're going through Bama's resume, you try to find them a good win, okay? Well, you want to mention Georgia. So if Georgia isn't a good win for Bama, then how come we're saying that Georgia's not deserving? It just – I mean, at the time of the game, Georgia has beaten four top 25 teams. And say what you want about it, but this isn't 1999 anymore. There's not 10 quality teams that can win the national championship. There's 3, maybe 2. And when people say quality wins, college football is so top-heavy and it's so watered down that I don't think you can use that as a case anymore in today's world. In the NFL, they don't use style points. I mean, you know, they stack the wins up at the end of the season, and whoever has the most get to go to the playoffs. So I just didn't like that. I mean, I'm not trying to be a Georgia homer or take up for them. I just rubbed me the wrong way. But I wasn't expecting a butt whooping. That's for sure. We'll see if they can do it again. But as for the other games kind of went as expected. The Oklahoma State game, how heartbreaking. I feel like that'd be the most Tennessee thing ever. We lose by a yard. But that QB played horrible throughout the game. I actually had money on who'd they play. I had money on Baylor. And I'm glad it went the way it did, but just a horrible game by that QB. He threw like 3 or 4 interceptions. He was god-awful. But the rest of the games kind of went. I'm actually surprised a little bit about the Oregon game. They got swamped twice by Utah. But anything from Saturday? Anything anybody else?
Yeah, I just want to get a quick take from you. You were talking about how there's only 2 or 3 teams that you feel could really win the national championship this year, and probably been that way for a couple of years now. Do you think if they expand the playoffs that'll open up, more kids will be more likely to go to the top 10 schools instead of the top 4?
I was with your question until the end, and that actually does make a good point that I never did think about. Do people go to Bama and Clemson because they want to play in the playoff? I mean, that's a good question.
I think they go more for exposure and NLI deals at this moment.
Yeah, that's kind of a tough question. So the first part of your question, yes, I do think a bigger playoff will hopefully increase parity because, you know, more chance of an upset. I mean, if you have to play 4 games, okay, you know, wear and tear on your body, all that, you know, who knows what could happen. Bama could just not show up one day, which is really rare. But look at the Texas A&M week; it did happen. That's a good question. I don't know. I want to see more parity. I want to see. I remember just when I was a kid, from like 2000, when Clawson was at Tennessee, there would always be like 5 or 6 teams, 7, 8, 9 teams that could win it. Now it's like Clemson, Ohio State, and Bama. It's basically it.
I just wanted to say real quick on that. I think with the transfer portal, we'll start to see that change because players are just going to where some players anyway are now just going to where they can get playing time. And I think that that's really going to change things up and kind of equalize the talent more as we go through the next few years.
It's kind of like that. Have y'all seen that picture where Mac Jones, Tua, and Jalen Hurts was all standing together? And if you think about it, all three are now starting NFL quarterbacks. I just can't wrap my head. Take Mac Jones, for instance. He was basically the last one on the totem pole. Mac Jones goes to Bama. Why would you go to Bama and have to wait till – well, he waited till he's a senior year to start. You know, why would you want to go and be fifth on the depth chart? Like Kamara was like fifth or sixth when he went to Bama at first. Like, I just don't understand that. A team like Tennessee trying to be on the up and up, we can sell playing time. So, I don't know. Anything else for anybody? All right, what else do we got? Okay, so what time is our guy coming on? About 8:30? Your Mike's. Your Mike.
I've got him on standby right now if you want to go on to that.
Okay, we can bring him on. So we're going to bring in our guy, Kyle Charters. He was nice enough to come on, take some time out of his day. And there he is. What's up, Kyle?
Hello. How are you guys?
Doing pretty well. Thank you for taking the time out of your daddy?
Yes. I have two 16-month-old twins, and they are now asleep. Or
I got you.
2 floors above me screaming. I can still hear them, but
I appreciate you coming on and talking a little bit of Purdue football. We got obviously a Music City Bowl coming up with them in Tennessee. Let's talk about you for a second. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What have you been doing with Purdue, and what's some of the stuff you write about, and where can we find your stuff?
Currently, I write about Purdue for Saturday Tradition. Previously, I've done a number of things. Worked for Gold and Black Illustrated on the Rivals Network for about 15 years. What else? I hosted a radio show before COVID. Unfortunately, we got the axe when COVID hit a year ago, which was too bad. Still host a pregame show on the same station, and do Purdue baseball play-by-play, which I've done for 19 years. So hopefully we'll make a trip down to Tennessee one day. That would be nice.
Let's say that, and this is kind of true from my part. Let's say nobody has ever heard of the 2021 Purdue Boilermakers, which today I had to look up some of the stuff. Like, I didn't even look at their schedule till today. Give us a mini summary of their season. What's some of the stuff they've been going through? Well,
exceeding expectations. I think that's a good way to put it. Before the season, I think if you were a Purdue fan, you definitely would have taken 6 wins, got back to a bowl game after a 2-year absence, and felt like the program was headed in the right direction again. When Jeff Brom came 5 years ago, Purdue had won 9 games in 4 years. 9 in 4 years. And so the expectation level for a quick turnaround was not very high, but Jeff Brom took Purdue to back-to-back bowl games in his first 2 years, which was a little shocking. And then the last 2 years have been a little bit more of a challenge. Now, some of that is injury-related. Some of it may be, pandemic-related last year. But the expectation for this year was to, get 6 wins, get back into the postseason. And really, before the bye week, Purdue lost to Minnesota at home, a game that they just did not look very good in. It was raining. It just was sort of a miserable afternoon in Ross-Ade Stadium. And they went to that bye week 3-2, had number 2 Iowa coming up next out of the bye, and you were sort of wondering if Purdue could get to 6 wins. And then suddenly it beats Iowa. It wins on the road at Nebraska. It slips up at home to Wisconsin, and then beats a top 5 Michigan State team at home the week after that. And suddenly, Purdue was well within striking distance of 6 wins, and then could exceed that even. And so if I had to summarize it, I mean, just the exceeding expectation and getting to 8 wins is a pretty good achievement for this team.
Sounds pretty good. You cool with taking some around the horn questions from us here?
Sure.
Lo, you're up.
Again, thank you for coming on and talking with us, Kyle. First of all, I just want to say it sounds like very similar to Tennessee's season in the fact that we were only predicted to win 3 games or so.
Yeah.
And we ended up winning 7. That was definitely exceeding expectations. One of my things, I guess, first of all, before I ask my question, have you followed much about Tennessee at all this year? Probably, I wouldn't say
Yeah,
you.
I mean, a little bit, but, I watched so much Purdue and Big Ten football that I can't say that I've watched a ton. I watched the one part of the game that probably no one wants to talk about, the fans getting all upset. What was that, the Ole Miss game?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I just happened, for whatever reason, to turn on the TV and caught the last 5 minutes of that game. But, I know Josh Heupel, obviously. It's interesting that, he was playing at the same time as, Drew Brees at Purdue. And that's when I was a student way back,
Cool.
25 years ago or whatever it is now, 20 years ago. And so, there's that little bit of tie there, I guess, that those two guys are sort of contemporaries. And know the quarterback situation, having done a little bit of research on Tennessee with the two guys transferring in and, the success that Heupel has had with the offense down there in his first year. I mean, I think there are some similarities between the teams in that regard that, I would expect that both teams will be able to score.
Yeah.
Down in Nashville. If I look at things, I think maybe Purdue's defense might be a little bit better, but that's with George Karlaftis, and I'm not sure Big George is going to play or not. I mean, he has declared for the NFL. It's sort of unclear, I think, whether he or David Bell will play in the game. That hasn't necessarily been cleared up. I would suspect that neither plays in the bowl game, but they haven't straight up just said that yet. So I don't know, but yeah, I mean, I've been able to follow him at least a little bit.
Okay. The reason why I was kind of figuring out where you were at was because I was going to ask you, do you feel like Purdue holds a specific advantage over Tennessee in like one area or several areas? And if you think so, could you elaborate a little bit on that?
I would just look at it from a Purdue perspective, that Purdue's passing game is hard for a lot of teams to be able to slow down right now. Aiden O'Connell came in the 4th or 5th game and became the starter. Now, it's not like he just came out of nowhere to become the starter. He had started 7 or 8 games before this year. Actually came to Purdue as a walk-on. That was back when I was covering the team every day for Gold and Black, and we see this tall walk-on, and walk-ons, they usually can't throw the ball 15 yards, and it looks like a duck, and he came out and was just zinging the ball around the yard. And I talked to one of my coworkers. I'm like, who is this guy? And, you noticed him way back then. And he has a little bit of magic in his arm or something. I mean, he just has the ability to put the ball where it needs to go. And it was a close battle between him and Jack Plummer for the starting job. Aiden actually beat Jack a year ago, but then got hurt. And then this year, Jack beat him out. And then they made the change. And Purdue's just been really good offensively since then, since he sort of got going. And I don't know what the stats are the last 5 games. He's averaging 360 yards a game and completing 75% of his passes and 6 touchdowns and no interceptions. I mean, it's been really good. So, I mean, to me, if you look at Tennessee's numbers defensively and Purdue's numbers offensively, particularly in the passing game, that would be a strength, I think, certainly for Purdue in the game.
Yeah, I'd have to say I agree. I saw that currently in the air, total yards was 4,086 for you guys. And, Alontae Taylor, one of our key guys, is not going to be playing, so on defense anyway. So that's kind of something that I'm a little iffy about. But I'll go ahead and let Bandit over here give his question.
Hey, Kyle, once again, thanks for coming on with us. I've got just some quick hitters here. You just mentioned Aiden O'Connell. I've got down, 26 touchdowns and 8 interceptions this year. All 8 interceptions during the first 6 games, 0 interceptions the last 6 games. Yeah. You think that's just nerves and settling in, or was it weaker competition those last 6 games?
A little bit of it was circumstance. So he came into the Notre Dame game halfway through the game. Purdue was trailing. He threw a couple of, I think he started off his first drive deep in their own territory, trying to get Purdue's offense going a little bit. It had been stagnant until then. Those two interceptions, at least one of those two was a deflection. And the other one is just in complete garbage time where he's just trying to chuck the ball down the field. It was a somewhat similar story than the next week. He came off the bench again against Illinois, and Purdue's offense again was just going nowhere. It was a weird season in that Purdue scored 13 points in 4 of 5 games over a 5-week span. And for a Jeff Brom offense, it's just pretty incredible. And that's, part of why Purdue made the quarterback change. But he came in again against Illinois, and again they were trailing, and again he was trying to force the ball down the field a little bit, and again one of them was on a deflection. And then he just didn't play very well against Wisconsin. Purdue and Wisconsin is just a bad matchup for Purdue. Purdue has not beaten them since 2003. They're not beaten them at home since 1997. Just the big physical teams like Wisconsin with, big offensive line, great running backs. Purdue has always had trouble with them. And so Purdue struggled against Wisconsin at home. Again, he threw 3 picks. But really, since then he's been great. And he does not – historically he has – and I kept telling people this as he was throwing all these interceptions. And then, he threw 3 more against Wisconsin. I'm like, no, I'm serious. He is not a turnover machine. If you look at his numbers, even in the past couple of seasons when he has started, he does not turn the ball over a ton. And so it was a little bit odd to see him throwing the ball to the other team, through those first few games when he was coming off the bench and then when he became the starter.
Okay. And then I've got did some looking at the O-line. Only gave up 16 sacks this year. That's pretty good. And but then only 83.5 rushing yards per game. Is that by design just because Purdue throws the ball so much?
It's not necessarily by design. It's mostly because Purdue doesn't run the ball very well. They would like to be able to run it better than they do. The offensive line is good in pass protection. It's not been great at run blocking. It doesn't have a lot of depth. But I think they've made it through the season with only 6 guys starting. I think Greg Long, their left tackle, missed 1 game. They had to shuffle things up a little bit. But it's been pretty good. Purdue had a lot of depth in the spring, and then they had 5 or 6 guys all got hurt. And many of them have actually retired from football because of injuries. So the depth was sort of depleted. Purdue also lost its starting running back against UConn, Xander Horvath, who is a big, almost fullback type. I mean, he's a 6'1", 240, really good between the tackles, but he broke his ankle against UConn of all teams, who's, not very good, and missed probably, 6 or 7 weeks. And he's come back, but not quite the same, I don't think. You miss 2 months, basically. You're not quite going to be the same guy, especially that kind of, between the tackles runner. Purdue only had basically the most they've had 2 scholarship running backs active for each game all year. Pretty much it. They had to move Jackson Anthrop into the backfield. He's a slot receiver, a guy who's been on the team for 6 years, and I think is their 3rd leading receiver. They moved him into the backfield at times, and you'll probably see him in the backfield. I would imagine in the bowl game he'll probably get 4 or 5 handoffs. He can a little bit more shifty. Purdue just doesn't have a guy who can get outside the tackles and get upfield, and Jackson probably does that as well as anybody or better than anybody. But, yeah, they don't run the ball well. If a success for Purdue running the ball would be if they can, pick up 4 yards on a 1st and 10 from the 15 and make it a little bit more manageable red zone situation, or, convert a couple 3rd and shorts. That would be a successful day for Purdue running the football. They just want to be able to have that threat that, if they had to run and gain a 1st down, they could do it. And they've, for the most part, been able to manufacture that.
Okay. And then one last thing I've got. Looked at some defensive stats here. I've got Tennessee at 32 sacks, Purdue at 23 sacks. Tennessee 50 pass deflections, Purdue 42 pass deflections, Tennessee 10 interceptions, Purdue 13 interceptions on the year. But then I went and looked at 4 or 5 different college football rating sites, and you never know what they're using to come up with this rating, but on most of them, Purdue's defense was rated a lot higher than the Vols. Why do you think that is?
Well, Purdue had one really bad game against Ohio State. I mean, I don't know what the final numbers were. He gave about 500 yards and 60 whatever points it was. But otherwise, it's been pretty good. Purdue basically, well, Bob Diaco got fired after only 6 games at Purdue. He was the defensive coordinator last season. Didn't make it through even more than the 6 games. Purdue almost immediately made that change. As it turns out, the entire defensive staff, I think one of the other coaches was let go and then 2 others left. And so the entire defensive staff was replaced in the offseason, led by Brad Lambert, who was a finalist to take over the head coaching job at Marshall. Ended up not getting the job. Purdue hired him as his defensive coordinator. And then named 3 guys, actually, co-defensive coordinators. Purdue has 3 co-defensive coordinators. Tri-co coordinators, maybe. I don't know. So Mark Hagan, who well-traveled, I should say successful and traveled defensive line coach. This is his actually second stint with Purdue. I mean, he's a great assistant coach and really has helped that defensive line. And George Karlaftis in particular. Ron English, who's had head coaching experience and, of course, been a defensive coordinator, major programs. And then James Adams is a younger guy who's coach in the secondary. But completely new defensive staff. And, I mean, the change is remarkable. I mean, they were running a Bob Diaco silly 3-4 defense last year that made no sense given its personnel. Its best player, George Karlaftis, was neutralized playing a 3-down lineman in, which, again, it's just not the position he should be playing. So they've been much better this year. But a lot of it revolves around number 5 being on the field. I mean, you look at Karlaftis' numbers, and they do not tell the whole story. It's why if you were to look at his stats and be like, wait, he has 5 sacks this year, yet everyone's saying he's going to be a top 10 draft pick. That doesn't, those things don't add up. It seems like he should have more sacks than that. He just is so impactful. I mean, there's been a dozen at least, 20 maybe, other plays where he is getting pressure, causing the quarterback to make a mistake, throw an interception, just a negative play, whatever, that has so influenced Purdue and Purdue's defense that, you can't just look at the numbers alone. And Purdue, for the most part, has been pretty good defensively. Just the one game was bad against Ohio State.
All right. Thanks for taking my questions.
Yep.
So, Kyle, I don't know if you're familiar with maybe Tennessee the last couple of years. We went through a major coaching search after Butch Jones. Do you remember?
Oh, I'm actually somewhat familiar with Butch. I don't know if you know this, but so back when I worked for Golden Black, he was a candidate at Purdue when Purdue hired Darrell Hazel. And I actually, that was back when it hired Danny Hope, rather. So even before that. So that was back in the early days where everybody followed airplanes on FlightAware.
We still do that.
Yeah, and everybody still does. But this was way back, like in the early first couple of years when people were just figuring out you could do that. But I hid in the bushes there at the Purdue airport and watched Butch Jones get off the.
Was this when he was at Cincinnati, like before us?
Yes, and then he ended up taking the Colorado job. Is that right?
Before he came to us, yeah. Colorado State or Colorado? Colorado, yeah.
He was really just leveraging Purdue, I think, at that time for a bet what he felt like was a better job. But it was just sort of funny. We were me and a couple other media people.
You could probably
and actually my brother of all people was with me, and we were just sort of hiding in the bushes near the airport and watched him and Purdue's athletic director and everybody else top off the plane. But anyway,
you could
ended up in Tennessee.
you could call Tennessee fans' moms bad words, any name in the book, and they would still like you more than Butch Jones, I think, to this point. But I'm going to talk about the 2017 coaching search was after Butch,
Yeah.
the Greg Schiano whole ordeal. That
Right.
For some reason, he was like our number one candidate. So we have a writer here in Knoxville, been here forever, Jimmy Himes. I don't know if you're familiar with him. At one point, he was the only one that said that Jeff Brom was a done deal to UT. Now, a lot of UT fans can't stand Jimmy Himes. I don't have opinion on him. He's okay. He's the type that he will get 2, 3, 4, 5 sources before he will chime out his news. And that's good. That's fine. He's always late to everything, though. But now he said it was a done deal. From your standpoint, and I don't know if you were here with Purdue at the time.
It was, yeah.
Was it close, or do you know of anything like that?
No, so in 2017,
it was after the 2017 season.
After the 2017 season. So
that
would be Jeff Brom would have been still at Western Kentucky then.
I got Brom's stuff right here. It looks like his first year at Purdue was 2017.
Okay, so 2017, 17, 18, 19. Sorry, 20. Yeah, you're right. Okay. So after his first year, I don't think that there was that close. There was the Louisville thing then a year later with Brom. That one, from our perspective, was closer because there are the obvious ties between Brom and his hometown, clearly. But I don't recall, from our perspective, feeling like Tennessee was a thing that could happen.
I'm sitting here looking at his record, and I don't know how much interaction you have with the fan base. How do they feel about Brom? I know it's not the most sexy thing ever. This is actually his best year, probably. Mm-hmm. What's the Purdue's fan base thinking about him?
Well, I think that he definitely won people back over with this season. I think there were some people that were on the fence after the last 2 years because he came in so hot. Now, most people, I hope, recognize that Purdue was horrible. I mean, it won 9 games under Darrell Hazel in 4 years. 9. And 3 of those were against Indiana State. You weren't, and 2 of them were against Illinois, who's not good. So, at least wasn't then and is, marginal now. But Jeff Brom did not inherit a Rose Bowl team when he came to Purdue, yet, he was able to get a couple of bowl seasons in a row. Now, the last 2 years did not go well. And I think had this year, I don't think he was on the hot seat per se. But if he would have only won 5 games this year, I think that there certainly would have been a lot of pressure from the fan base. And then also, some internal pressure, I think, for him to start winning again. And luckily for him, luckily for Purdue, that never really came to pass because Purdue, was able to get 8 wins this year.
I know Lowe kind of touched on this question a little bit. What are they saying about Tennessee up there, fan base wise or media? Is there something that they're kind of scared of, the offense? What are they saying about us?
Well, I think it's just playing the SEC. The last time Purdue played in the, it's sort of the running joke, I think, with Purdue fans is that they just sort of ignore that the Music City Bowl a few years ago happened, that Purdue got beat 63-20 or whatever that final score of that game was by Auburn. People this week have joked, Music City Bowl, is that in Nashville? We've never been to Nashville. So I think that that's as much the conversation as anything, is that Purdue didn't want to have to go to the Music City again and play an SEC team and sort of potentially have to relive what happened a couple of years ago with Auburn. Now that Auburn team just physically beat the crap out of Purdue. I mean, Purdue was just not where it needed to be. I think that Purdue is probably now better equipped physically to deal with some of that. man, a couple of years ago it wasn't. And now we'll see if David Bell's not playing, if George Karlaftis isn't playing. That certainly hurts Purdue. You take away two of the best players. I mean, that was the nice thing for Purdue this year, is that every week, aside from Ohio State, it had arguably the two best players on the field. And, one of them played defense, one played offense. And so, that gave the team a lot of confidence that, hey, look, we got two guys that can, go with anybody. So if they're not playing this month, then maybe not. But I think that's been the general, not specific to Tennessee, but just sort of specific to the game and what happened a few years ago.
You cool with going around the horn one more time?
Sure.
Okay, Lo.
That actually kind of led right into a couple of my questions. I know you were kind of reflecting on the last time they went to the Music City Bowl, but are you, and I guess some of the fans that you interact with, buddies, etc., are you guys disappointed with this matchup in terms of having to play Tennessee? Or did you want to play what you would consider a more elite team or someone from a different conference? Where were you guys kind of hoping to land?
I think there's some disappointment that it's. I don't mean to repeat myself, but I think there's disappointment that it's back in Nashville again. I think some people hoped for, to go to Vegas maybe, or the outside chance they could go to the Outback Bowl. Purdue fans have fond memories of the Outback Bowl, even though Purdue ultimately lost the game. Purdue played in 2000 in the Outback Bowl, led Georgia big at the half in that game. Joe Tiller did something you're not supposed to do. He chased points. Purdue's field goal kicker, who's an All-American, missed an extra point early. Purdue later went for two, didn't get it. And they did all this early in the first half and got up big. I don't know what the halftime score was like. It was like 24-7 or something. And then ultimately lost the game. And so despite that, I think Purdue fans have fond memories of that. It was a good time. It was obviously the change to the millennium and all of that. I was down there. I had a good time. So I think there was some hope that maybe it would be elsewhere. I think people are disappointed that Penn State sort of jumped everybody a little bit, even though Penn State's only 7-5.
Yeah.
I mean, Penn State's 7-5. It lost to Illinois at home, and its coach got like $100 million contract. How does that happen? It's like it. I don't know. But Penn State jumped a few teams to get into that spot, which I think was sort of upsetting. And then I don't think there's any, I haven't heard at least, people don't want to play Tennessee. I don't know why that would be necessarily. I think maybe just wanted to sort of avoid the whole Nashville thing because it didn't go very well a few years ago.
Absolutely. That makes sense. And I mean, I haven't followed much of Penn State, but I mean, you guys beat number 2 and number 3 and have a better record than them. So I would be kind of disappointed.
Yeah, a lot of, throughout the year, Penn State was routinely ranked in the top 25. And I kept, every time somebody posted on Twitter, I was like, Purdue's resume is better than Penn State's. And it's not even close. And, it's just Penn State being Penn State, and sort of the, what that school has been. And then, James Franklin does a good job of getting attention, I think, sometimes, deserved or not. And so, yeah, I mean, the fans travel well. They'll go down to Tampa and play that game.
Yeah, and I guess my last question, which it sounds like you're pretty busy, like in your home life and stuff, but are you attending the bowl game in Nashville or not going to make the trip?
I'm unlikely to. I actually host a pregame show, and I suppose I could call into the pregame show, but I think we're hosting it in the studio, I assume. So I will be back here hosting a pregame show and then just watching on TV.
Okay, well that's
yes, the home. The children here at home also do influence that decision a little bit. Over the years, I've been to a bunch of them, from the Rose Bowl to the Outback Bowl, Capital One Bowl. Back when Purdue was going quite often there with Joe Tiller as the coach. Sort of did it as a job, but as a fan a couple of times there as well. So
absolutely
usually good times.
Well, I think that is my last couple of questions, and I just wanted to say thank you again for coming on. It's been a blast, and I've learned a lot about Purdue, so I'm going to let Bandit or Cody finish up with his questions. Thanks again.
Yeah, I'll go one more. You mentioned how this season had kind of won the fan base back over for Jeff Brom. If the final score December 30th is 63-20 again, is that all forgotten, or does he still have some time left?
Oh, he has time left. I that would sting, I think, to say the least. But yeah, I mean, I think that if that happened, there would be at least you could point to some excuses, and that would. I'm sort of expecting that Bell and Karlaftis won't play. I don't think that that'll happen again. I think Purdue is better equipped physically, again, to be able to match up. I think both programs maybe are in similar spots in that regard right now, sort of both building toward what they hope is something bigger. For Purdue, I think Purdue down the road can compete and maybe win the Big Ten West. Can it then do that and springboard itself into a 4-team college football playoff? I think that's probably a little bit of a stretch, though Michigan State has done it before out of the East. But I hope that Purdue is building toward at least a Big Ten West championship, give itself a chance then in the Big Ten title game and see what happens after that. But the point is, I think that, fans would be certainly disappointed if that was the outcome, but I don't think it would change much of what Jeff Brom is doing at Purdue.
All right. That's all I got. Thanks for coming on again, man.
Yep.
So I got 2 questions. One, I'm going to put you on the spot here. This is like a little fun thing. Give us a couple of famous Purdue alumni. Off the top of your head.
Neil Armstrong.
I was going to say, him.
Yeah. Drew Brees, obviously. I don't know, man. Yeah, you're putting me on the spot. John Wooden.
I'll give you a hint. Popcorn.
Yeah, Orville Redenbacher.
Yeah.
That's
the
one you were looking for. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at this list, and I can only name those 2. The rest of them, I don't really know any of those guys.
Yeah.
Raheem Mostert, he's the running back for the 49ers, right?
Really good guy. Yeah, Raheem Mostert. Yeah. He was one of those guys that sort of got lost in the shuffle with Darrell Hazel. I mean, he played a little bit of receiver, played a little bit of running back, was a kick return guy, really talented. I mean, can run really fast and just never really found a positional home at Purdue. And then he goes to the NFL, and he's been hurt a couple of times, but man, when he plays, he's pretty good.
I would imagine that Purdue fans treat Drew Brees like we treat Peyton. Yeah. But what's their opinion on like Kyle Orton? Do they like him?
I don't know how familiar people like Kyle Orton. Kyle is a little bit of a different guy. He's quiet. He doesn't seek out the limelight. He's not on Twitter that I know of. He's just living life.
Yeah.
After retirement, and doesn't come around that often. But he likes Purdue. I think he enjoyed his time at Purdue. He's just that sort of quiet guy who would sort of like to live without some of the fame, I think, and he's always been that way. But he also fumbled against Wisconsin in 2004 that people sort of point to as a turning point for the program. I mean, game day was at Purdue. Purdue was ranked 5th or whatever it was. He was the Heisman leader. Game day was going to come back to Purdue the next week for the Michigan game, and on a naked bootleg, he got turned upside down. Purdue was up 17-7 late in the game. Fumbled the ball. Wisconsin raced it back for a touchdown, scored again. Purdue lost the game, and that whole season sort of crumbled. Orton got hurt, but man, if there's a moment in time that Purdue's fortunes as a football program changed directions, it's that moment. And I think the hope for a lot of people is that here 17, 18 years later, Purdue's finally coming out of it a little bit. It's been a long climb back. Purdue was hoping it was going to beat Wisconsin this year, and that would sort of be the thing that got him over the hump. And then Wisconsin came into Ross-Ade and smoked him again.
You almost described Casey Clausen to a T. Kind of just doesn't come around the program. I think he came to a game earlier this year.
Yeah.
Very up and down. He had a couple great big wins in his career. Had some mistakes, but the fan base loves him. But he, like I said, he's kind of keeps to himself. Before you leave, give us a score prediction for. I'm going to put you on the spot again. Score prediction for the game.
Early, early, and can I reserve the right to change my mind at some point? We have like 3 weeks of the game.
Let's say all your guys play too. Like all your guys don't declare. They all play.
Say that again.
Let's like your what's his name? David Bell.
Yeah.
Let's say in your prediction, let's say he plays.
He plays. Yeah. I don't think there's any chance that George Karlaftis plays. I think there's probably like a 5% chance that David Bell plays. Karlaftis, I don't know why you would play if you're a top 10 draft pick. I mean, that the risk is too great. Bell will probably be a second round pick, I would guess. He does a lot of things really well. I mean, the guy is unbelievable. His routes must be perfect. He's got great hands, eye-hand coordination. He just isn't going to go out there and run a 4.40. He's just, he's not going to run a 4.3. He's not DJ Metcalf. He's not going to run fast enough to be a first round pick, but he'll be a second round pick and be really, really good for a long time. So we'll assume he plays, and we'll assume Karlaftis does not, which I think they probably both won't. But I think it's high scoring. I think that Purdue ekes it out 35-32, but I could see it going either way. I think both teams will probably get into the 30s, but it might just come down to turnovers. If Aiden O'Connell plays like he has and doesn't turn the ball over, Purdue's got some other weapons too offensively besides just David Bell. I mean, Milton Wright's a pretty good receiver. They have some other receivers who are nicked up who won't play, but they'll probably put Brock Thompson in as the other starter. But if Bell doesn't play, I like Purdue by a couple points.
Okay, sounds good. You're wrong, but that sounds good.
You're probably right. If you looked at my record this year, I mean, that's the thing about Purdue is like, it beat Iowa and Michigan State. Nobody's going to predict that it's going to beat Iowa and Michigan State. At the time that Purdue went and played Nebraska, you still felt like at some point Nebraska's going to win a game. Yeah. Like they can't lose every game by 5 points. And they won one.
I was going to say they lost a bunch of games by 1 or 2 possessions. And,
yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah, my record of predicting games this year is bad. So take that with you on my prediction for the bowl.
Sounds good. I appreciate you coming on and spending about 45 minutes with us. I learned a lot more about Purdue than I don't usually watch Big Ten football. No offense to y'all, but it's pretty damn boring to us. But thanks for coming on, man.
All right, appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Appreciate it. That was Kyle Charter's Saturday Tradition. Go check out some of his stuff. Follow him maybe just for a couple weeks for the Music City Bowl. Any thoughts on him and Purdue's scouting report there, Lowe or Bandit?
I mean, he seems like a super cool guy. Learned a lot for sure. I barely looked up much at all just because I wanted to see what all he had to say, but nice guy. And you're right. I think he is wrong with his score prediction, but that's all right. Bandit, anything?
Kyle seems like a great guy. He came with big props from Tom Dienhart up there in Purdue land. Also heard from Trey Wallace said Kyle's a stand-up guy. Don't see anything tonight that would differ with that. Glad Kyle came on.
I think Kyle sounds like a typical media guy. Like he can just the way he talks, the way he's like the sound of his voice and everything. He's just a typical media dude. He's full of information.
Very good radio voice.
Yeah. All right. I know y'all don't want to do this, but
got a great beard too.
Thanks. I know y'all. Oh, my bad. I know y'all don't want to do this, but basketball review.
Got to rip Matt off sometime.
Are we First of all, are we going to go Colorado, Texas Tech, or are we just going to do it all together and get
You
through
want to do
it?
it in one round, like both of them, kind of?
Yeah, I'm good
Okay.
with that.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So starting off with Colorado, I thought the first half was kind of a slow start, which seems to be a common occurrence for this team so far. However, they kind of turned it on, went up at the half by 10 points, or went into the half up 10. I felt like Colorado was a pretty solid team, and it was a road matchup. Obviously, Kennedy Chandler kicked ass, 27 points in 36 minutes. And I also thought Folke had a pretty good game. He only had 10 points and 6 rebounds, but he put in 31 minutes, which is more than his usual in games. The other thing that I thought was interesting was 3 of our starters, Vescovi, Chandler, and Folke, combined for 50 of our 69 total points. Kind of scary when you think about it, because our other starters, the other 2 starters, Cumwad and Bailey, Cumwad only had 3 points and Bailey had 0. So I thought, it's kind of scary to have to depend on just 3 guys to come out and score a majority of your points. But luckily we had some guys that came in off the bench and were able to contribute. I typed up my notes before last night on this one, and I thought that shooting 25% from the 3 was bad in Colorado. And then last night happened, and I was just like, oh my God. Texas Tech, I personally did not like this matchup from the beginning. All of their starters are between 6'6" and 6'9", all 5 of them. And we only have 1 starter at 6'9", anywhere close in that, and that's Folke. So I immediately thought it was a disadvantage for us. Forced us to play quicker, and usually when we do that, we have a lot of turnovers and try to get too crafty with the ball. My biggest positive is, of course, Ziegler. He is so much fun to watch. Even he was the bright spot in last night's just absolutely abysmal game. His shot before the half was so awesome. I absolutely love that. That guy just plays with so much confidence, being only 5'9", and he's out here with guys that are like a foot or more taller than him. He just doesn't seem to be bothered at all. He's my absolute number 1 shining star from last night. I just don't know what to say. I think I went on enough rants via Twitter last night. I don't want to just continue on, but that was probably the worst. That was the worst basketball game I've ever watched to this day for me. Can they bounce back? Yes, we're in December, but I hope to God that they have watched that over and over and over and over and never, ever, ever play like that again. I'm going to keep it PG and go on to Bandit.
Well, like you said, Leland, I don't want to talk about this. Nobody wants to talk about this. Here's my December overreaction. I think the Villanova game and the Texas Tech game last night are the worst coach games of the Rick Barnes era. Now, of course, you can go back and find some game that we lost 5 years ago that I don't remember off the top of my head. I'm sure you could go back and find one, but it's going to be, like I said, 4 or 5 years ago when we're sitting with a team full of 3 stars. This is a 5-star team. This is a top 5 national talent star rating team. I want to hit on Olivier Cumwad. Was he hurt last night? Or what's the deal with this? All right, so this Olivier Cumwad guy. I had people at the beginning of the year that all last year said they can't stand this kid. The beginning of this year, they said, whoa, this kid's really come a long way. He's playing good. So Olivier Cumwad, and I forgot to write the names of the teams down that we played, but Yeah, UT Martin, ETSU, and I think the other one was Tennessee Tech. Olivier Cumwad played 28 minutes, 24 minutes, 29 minutes against those teams respectively, and put up 11, 23, and 18 points. And now, our last 3 games, he's played 18 minutes, 13 minutes, 13 minutes, and put up 2, 3, and 2 points. So, what happened? Is it the same old Cumwad, and he's not progressed at all, and he just looked like he had against these lesser teams, and we just wasted those minutes? Like those would be valuable minutes against lesser opponents to get these new guys time on the floor, and it just looks like same old with Olivier, and we've wasted valuable floor minutes for our other guys. I'm gonna leave this segment with the question: are one and dones the best route? Just like Lowe said, I think Zakai Ziegler is the bright spot on this team. If he was on last year's team, I would probably say that too. And you look at his recruitment, there's not a blue blood program out there that would have been upset if you would have stole Zakai Ziegler from him at any point this recruiting season. And here he is, the bright spot on the team. So, give me a couple Zakai Zieglers. These 5 stars ain't cutting it for me.
All right, so a couple things. So ever since like after Pearl, I've kind of had this little thing in my head: out of conference Power 5 road games. So going into Colorado, I was expecting to lose, because in years past, I think we went between like Conzo and the first couple of years of Barnes. Now this is just top of my head thinking, we lost every early on Power 5 road game. And I was expecting, like I said, Colorado to. So when the game started out the way it did, we started at 8-0 down. I figured that'd be a loss. Road game, have to travel across the country and all that. We came back. We ended up beating them by, 15 or so. Chandler was kind of like his mini coming out party, I think. 27 points. He balled out for us. Nobody else. Well, they had a 10 and 13, but no one else had 20. And that was a good game, good win. Okay, so about last night. So this might be an unpopular opinion, but I'm more frustrated when a team like just constantly is shooting and making threes on us. Take the Oregon State game last year in the tournament. Constant raining. I think Jody Meeks one time had a game where he scored like 50 on us in Thompson Bowling when he played at Kentucky. There's nothing you can do about it. Now, you can say last night was ugly, one of the worst games you've ever seen, the worst game you've ever seen. But, like, Texas Tech was just as bad as we were. They just had a couple breaks go their way. Like, we had a guy fall on a dunk. Like, when does that happen? So, the more frustrating game to me is games when we just can't stop the other team. Constant shooting, and they're hitting everything under the sun. There was a Georgetown game, I think, under Conzo that we played that was pretty damn ugly. I think it was like 40-something to 38 or something. It was disgusting. I read a stat last night that even though it went into overtime, the over still didn't hit, and it had some change to go. That's how sad that was. Like, that's god-awful. I'm kind of sick of the every loss we have, it's Fire Barnes. I'm going to call out the fan base here. I don't care how much he's making. I know people say he shouldn't be making, we're not getting our results for $5-6 million. Let me lay down this for you, okay? Tennessee basketball is a second-rate sport in the university. And if the way the Vitello is going with baseball, it could be a third-rate sport, okay? So you're going to have to overpay for somebody to come here. Everybody wants to fire him when he loses, and everybody points to his tournament success. Okay, the NCAA tournament is a wild animal. You don't know what you're going to get each time you step on the court during the tournament. Okay, now I know good coaches, great coaches, the Mike Kays of the world, the Roy Williams of the world, the Bill Selfs of the world. They have a better record than Rick Barnes, which separates that tier, Rick Barnes tier, and those tier guys. Okay. And I get all that. And yes, coaching matters because we just saw the football team with a coach that mattered. His coaching mattered. Okay. But I'm so sick and tired of every loss wanting to point to how much Barnes makes. You're not signing the checks. The money isn't coming out of your account. Why the hell do we care how much he's making? I don't. Okay. My thing on Barnes is he's going to keep this program afloat, and that's what we want, right? Like, it just tides us over to football season, okay? Everybody's like, well, don't you want more than that? Yeah, I do. But, it is what it is. Let's roll the dice. Let's keep him. He'll get us in the tournament. It took a special weird hiring in Bruce Pearl to take Tennessee basketball to heights that we've never seen before. And that was a lightning in a bottle thing, and he's not coming back. And I just wish people would get off Barnes a little bit. Now, the first couple of years, people were bitching about him not being able to recruit, but he developed a guy. He doesn't. I don't hear one person ever saying that he gets credit for developing Admiral. He recruited Grant Williams. Grant's playing in the NBA right now. He was a 3-star. And then the big knock on Barnes, all I heard was he was a lazy recruiter. So now we're getting the talent in, and people are mad that the one-and-dones aren't developing fast enough. Well, they're 18, 19-year-old kids, okay? Even Kentucky's having trouble. If you look, and I bet if you break it down, that's why Wisconsin's so good year in year out. They have these big white juniors and seniors that are there for 4 years. So I just would people would just enjoy what we have, and I just remember how abysmal Conzo was, like those games, and from the time Pearl left us till Barnes got here, it was god awful. Like, no one ever went to the games. Like, we're the 13th team in the country, and we were playing on ESPN last night. It was, say what you want about the game, it's whatever. But
I want to say a couple things, like just two thoughts that came into my head. Yes, I bitched and complained just as much as everyone else. However, there's a couple things that popped into my head. One, I would assume that they, like every team and every game, they came into this game with a game plan, knowing that it would be difficult for their guys with this huge size mismatch to drive it into the paint. So they were probably going to stick to shooting threes. However, I was disgusted to never see any of those fall in. But is Rick Barnes the one out there on the court shooting the threes? No. And it was not one player or two. It was every damn one of them. No one could hit it. I mean, that is a different thing. But you can't just go in and be like, all right, well, we are at a 7-inch height advantage and change your whole entire game plan when you're only down by 2 or 3 points, right? He probably thought, shoot them, they'll fall. I get that. It was hideous to watch, and I still don't necessarily agree with it, but I feel like their hands were tied and they were still in it, even though they played that bad. So I don't know.
Yeah, like how many times did I see him go down the court and they didn't even they didn't even work the shot clock. I guarantee I guarantee Barnes never said shoot the first shot. Like, right. When your big guy is Fulke, look, Fulke, we love him, fan favorite, but I don't think he's a guy if you want to win a title. He's not some guy you can post up on some big dude, and he's gonna take it. Now he's fine. He's good for being the small guy, but yeah, I don't know. I would like to know what dang it, I did it again. I would like to know what Barnes' game plan was last night when we weren't shooting, when we weren't knocking them down. Another thing, people were like, stop shooting. Like, you're not going to get out of a drought if you don't keep shooting. Now, I'm not saying go down there and jack up a three every single time.
Right.
Shoot it inside. Shoot jumpers around the free throw line, or set picks and get it down off the baseline.
Better percentage shots. I mean, they were open. They did not have to just run down there and take every three like you were saying. It was like, stop doing that. I really don't think that's what Barnes was calling. Okay, dribble it down, pop it off at the three, miss it, turn around, no rebounds on offense. I don't think that was his game plan. So
another thing that drives me insane is missed free throws. Yeah. And like I said a minute ago, Texas Tech in both categories of free throws and 3-point shooting was just as bad as we are. It was just a weird game. I think we should all just take it, crumble it, throw it away. I don't think that's a representation of what this Tennessee team can do and will be going forward. Now, if this continues to happen, we're in deep trouble when it hits SEC play.
Yeah. Alabama's coming up in a few days, or literally a couple weeks.
Yeah. So let's see if Chandler can continue to grow. I love Ziegler coming off the bench. He's mini AI. But let's just breathe. Like if this was in March, yes. Bandit.
I think the best thing that can happen for this team over the next 3 or 4 games before Alabama is Brandon Hundley-Hatfield's game matures by multiple years over the next couple weeks, because we got to find some post play.
Yeah, you got to have a big guy, and I hope that's not going to be the downfall. But all right, anything on basketball? You want to do some fan questions?
Yeah, we'll dive into these. So these were submitted like 2 weeks ago, but I took a break last week, so they all pretty much applied. So we're just going to run through them pretty quickly. The first 2 were about the transfer portal, so I'm going to read them both, and then we can just kind of combine them into one question since they were super similar. First one, at Stoked_Vol, asked us, who are your transfers that you would like to see us offer? And then at Jeff Stokes 4 asked us, any key linebackers or DBs in the transfer portal we should keep an eye on coming to the Vols. So basically just transfers that you would like to see us offer, and specifically linebackers or defensive backs. Bandit, you can go ahead.
Okay, so at first, when I first read this question, I hated it. Look at the transfer portal, or who do I want us to offer? Want us to offer whoever's the best. But the more I dug into it, the more I liked the question. These may be a little off topic, but just guys that are in the transfer portal, I'd like to see us bring in. Zach Evans, the running back at TCU. I'm not down in the kid, but it's reported he's a head case. That was talked about even during his recruitment process, signing with Georgia, then requesting out of it, and then that recruitment got a little crazy. We are actually hosting him on a visit soon. And then another kid, kind of the same issue in his recruitment. Another kid that looked like he could come here at the time, Terrence Lewis, linebacker at Maryland, was a 5-star linebacker out of Florida. I think he actually committed here at one point to Pruitt. Then ended up going to Maryland, and now when I dug into the portal question, saw him pop up. Looks like there's 3 or 4 linebackers at Maryland in the portal. Not sure what's up with that. So as far as being worried about bringing in something to the locker room, we don't want to. Like I said, I know this kid had a tumultuous recruitment process, but if there's multiple guys leaving Maryland from that same position group, it could be something else. And then another guy that I don't know if there was any connection with us during his recruitment process prior. But Elijah Blades, the cornerback down at Florida, was a big name coming out of high school, and he has entered the transfer portal down there. That would be a huge pickup with us seeing Alante go to the draft. And then another side of this question I want to hit, because there was a lot of discussion today. There was a tweet went out. Don't even know the profile. Don't even know where he got this, but he listed 3 or 4 players that would be. He said would be leaving the program in the next couple weeks. Just talk from some of the people I've talked to. I think Callaway and Jawan Mitchell and Morven Joseph are leaving. Morven Joseph's already in the transfer portal. I could see Jawan Mitchell and Callaway, the wide receiver, transferring out soon. But from what I've heard and who I've talked to, Jalen Hyatt and Tyler Barron are staying. I don't know where this guy's getting that. Jalen Hyatt's dad even tweeted out a thing today that they're not going anywhere. And Tyler Barron's dad lives in Knoxville. That would really surprise me if he left. Just wanted to hit on that, and that's all I got for this question.
Milo, or you?
You can go ahead. I'll just answer after both of y'all.
So 247 has this pretty cool little feature where you can go on there and you can see all the transfers, and you could basically do year, school, committed, uncommitted, committed, eligibility, position. You can do the latest ones that have announced or the top ones. So I just focused mainly on 5-star and 4-star. Corner. There's a couple corners I would like to see that are highly ranked. There's an Eli Ricks from LSU. I don't know if we'll be in play for any of these guys. I would love to be. And it also gives their school that they're transferring from, and it will give a prediction. So I'll run through these real quick. So Eli Ricks, he's from LSU. There's not a prediction on him yet. 5-star, would love to get him. So this Jamar Gibbs, running back from Georgia Tech, I know when he first announced his transfer that there was some Georgia Tech, I don't know if it was fan pages or some type of insider or something for Georgia Tech. They said that Tennessee was on the radar. They're actually predicting him to 247 is actually predicting him to go to Bama, and it says it's 100%. So I don't know, Bandit. You got something?
Yeah, what I heard on that, I have heard that he's apparently locked to go to Alabama now. But apparently the scoop on that is he wanted to come here originally. Tennessee was his dream school. He come up here to camp with Jeremy Pruitt and the staff at the time, and they refused to play him at running back. Jeremy Pruitt wanted to play him at safety, and even though that staff is gone now, he's still holding that against Tennessee, and that's why he won't come.
Death, taxes, and Pruitt not playing guys at the right position. That seems to be a trend. So you mentioned the Zach Evans. He's a 4-star from TCU. I haven't heard anything about him. I don't know anything about the head case thing or anything like you mentioned. There was a debate we had on the pod a couple weeks ago about Spencer Rattler. It looks like it's 100%. They have him down to UCLA, so with him and Chip Kelly. I kind of wish we had a little thing with Dylan Gabriel. That was Heupel's former QB down to UCF. It says that he's 100% to Ole Miss.
Not anymore.
Really? Where?
Jeff Lebby, the offensive coordinator at Ole Miss, is following Brent Venables.
You think he'll go to Oklahoma?
I definitely believe Dylan Gabriel to Oklahoma.
Well, here's something. Why would Gabriel, a 5th-year senior, go to Oklahoma when a freshman is the star or the future there? That isn't kind of.
I was going to touch on that too. That was, since you guys brought it up. He played with Heupel, and then he was injured. So he's probably not going to go win the starting position somewhere like that. And especially with his year, it would make sense for him to come to UT where Heupel already knows his talent abilities, and he could potentially get playing time immediately versus going there. So I'm just speculating, but
I think if Hooker announced he was going to the draft, that would be a bigger possibility.
He's still got to get people behind him, though. Think about it.
Yeah, build depth.
Yeah.
He's a lefty too. Shout out lefties. Going forward, the whole quarterback position is going to be interesting to watch. A couple other guys. There's a Marcus Banks, 4-star cornerback from Alabama that's transferring. They don't have a prediction for him. Another guy to look out to maybe replace Alontae Taylor. You mentioned the Maryland quarterbacks. I didn't realize there was more than one. I don't know. That sounds weird. Like 3 of your guys is leaving. This guy's
Something's up there, dude.
Brandon Jennings. He's a 4-star from Maryland. We need depth at linebacker to go with. We need starters, I guess, too, to go with Jeremy Banks. That's basically all the guys to keep on that are highly ranked going forward. I'm sure Heupel knows about these guys and is on the phones working some. I'm sure he's doing things behind the scene that we don't even know. But those are just some of the names, some of the Ferraris that I'd like to have in our garage. But we'll see going forward.
That's the thing with the transfer portal, though. Like that page you've got pulled up, you can hit refresh on that thing every 2 hours, and it's just going to transfer portal go.
What was that again?
So
yeah,
the guys commenting with the transfer portal, man, or the fans of the page with the transfer portal questions, go to that 24/7 page. If you don't have a paid subscription, hit me up. I'll give you my login, because that fucking transfer portal page, dude, is just all day long, and you can sit there and pipe dream your day away on transfer portal.
Yeah, there's a this thing is pretty cool. I mean, there's a 3-star from Vandy. I don't know if you think of Vandy, you think of shitty. But, I mean,
is that Darren Agoo?
I don't have his name written down. I just happened to see it.
If that's Darren Agoo, there's a good chance we land that dude.
Okay, that'd be cool if he was from the state to kind of help us.
He's a 6'6" wide receiver. Dude's huge.
Well, here's the thing that I would like people to remember is that we have really good coaches to develop players that are not necessarily top tier. We don't have to go after these people that are so highly sought after if we can develop these players and get them in the system that we want. So I just say get the depth and get the guys that fit the team the best. And
we need bodies real quick. I forgot to mention this guy. For one, we need bodies. Let's worry about talent once we add depth, and I know talent's great. You need it for sure. Bandit, let me get your opinion on this guy. What about Max Johnson, Brad Johnson's son, another lefty? Looks like he's leaving LSU, maybe as a backup plan. Like he showed some promise down there in Baton Rouge. Maybe they didn't have the offensive coaching that we might have. I mean, I would take Max Johnson.
Offer the whole family. That dude's little brother is the #1 tight end in Mississippi or some shit.
Really? Didn't know that.
Yeah. In like the next class.
Cool.
Offer the whole family.
Cool. I'd take him. I'll take him. Any kind of depth.
Take him for quarterback depth just for the fact of sealing his little brother.
Yep. Sounds good.
I love it. All right. Next question at Vols 327 says, "Hey, Lo, with Carvin coming back. Carvin coming back is huge on the O-line, but for the podcast, could you address the D-line for next year? Who we have presently and who we are going after, recruits versus transfer portal?" I know that we have talked about the portal, but I guess just touch on the D-line for next year.
Go ahead, Bandit. I'm totally blind on this subject. I forgot to look it up, actually.
Interesting thing about the D-line, and this is staying on the D-line topic, but you guys remember Darrell Middleton or Darrell Middleton? He just announced, like literally 5 minutes ago on Twitter, that in January he's going to commit to wherever he's transferring to. And the rumblings here lately is that there's a chance he might come back here, even if he has to prefer walk-on.
I know there was when he left West Virginia, there was a bunch of interaction on his page about retweeting Tennessee fans and all that stuff. He was trying to vouch to come back. I don't know. Of course, we don't know the situation.
Yeah, and that was just a few weeks back, and then as recently as a couple of days ago, he was actively recruiting for Tennessee, commenting on recruits' posts and doing the thing. And then today he comes out and says, "Hey, next month I'm gonna commit to where I'm transferring." So,
do you have, like I said, I was an idiot and completely forgot to look this up. But do you have some of the guys that's leaving off the D line? Is Bumpus gone?
I'm gonna be honest. I didn't research
I
this.
thought I saw that he was gone, but I also from somebody else said he had a COVID year that he could use. But I don't know.
From what I know, I could be wrong, but I thought he was maybe returning, and then Young would be returning as well, right? I haven't seen anything.
I didn't research this question. I'm not gonna lie.
What I can say is, like, when I looked at it, at least what I thought I looked at, a lot of them had some eligibility. The reason why people didn't think they were going to be good is because they were younger and didn't have much experience. They were sophomores or juniors in COVID year and new coaching.
I couldn't imagine anybody on this D line if they had an extra eligibility not coming back for it. There's no big names on this D line that just scream draft pick or I'm doing this, I'm going here. Anybody that has eligibility left, I couldn't imagine them transferring out. You're not going to find a better D line coach than Rodney Garner. I think it's more about who we bringing in.
I'm not at the end of the day. I'm not worried about bodies. We'll figure that out going forward. But
Paul, if you're watching, eat a dick. Watch no one's good.
Yeah, did you see my share today? I showed it in group. He's open to the possibility of maybe playing at UT.
One of our live viewers just commented and said, like, do we get Walter after his possibly comment yesterday? I don't know. It'd be great addition, but we don't know. Time will tell.
My thing is, why is he from Memphis? I guess I should know with him being a PAL guy. So if he's from Memphis and comes to Knoxville, okay, why in the world would you come to Knoxville if you weren't going to UT? Like, I don't get that. Like, he could probably stayed in Memphis and still been a Texas A&M guy. So why would you come up here? I've never understood that. But I would take him in a heartbeat. I watched him all year at PAL. Watched him in the state championship game. They wore him out. Like, he actually threw up on the 50-yard line at one point of the game because I don't think he takes a snap off. Like, he's dominant. He was the right tackle. I would sit there and watch their matchups. They would play 3 down linemen, and they would put Nolan at left end, and he would just straight bull rush this huge right tackle. And I'll give the dude credit. He was massive. And at one point, the dude missed his balance and fell over, and Nolan went straight to the QB, chased the QB down. I mean, dude's incredible. He's pretty good.
I love it. Anyone else on that question?
Another D-line guy I think we're probably a lot to get is that Jeffrey Mbah. Have you seen him? I think he's the number 1 defensive tackle in the nation coming out of junior college. So, man, if we get him and Walter side by side, look out. You're about to get butch slapped.
God. Retire.
I'm feeling it tonight.
Leland, anything else?
No, not about that.
Okay, we just got 3 more questions we're going to roll through. At Gunner Vols, he asked us, how many thousands of yards does Jahmyr Gibbs have next year for Tennessee? 2,000, 3,000, more?
Well, it looks like he's going to Bama, so I guess
0.
He might have that on us, but it looks like he won't have that for us.
Not if we get these defensive guys that we just talked about.
That's true. See, I don't understand. Like, Bandit, you mentioned he had a grudge against us with Pruitt and all that. Why? Like, as a previous coaching staff, I think that's kind of whatever, man.
The stuff never makes sense, and it's probably just something he said at some point to somebody because they didn't want to say, or they were saying, "Oh, you're just going to Alabama because you want to win a championship. You're chasing a championship." Because like I said, when he was going through his recruitment out of high school, Tennessee was like one of his top schools, and now it's like you've got a chance to actually go there. I think at some point somebody said to him, "Oh, that's where you really wanted to go before. Now you're just going to Bama to chase championships." And he was like, "Oh no, they wanted to play me at safety."
Heupel could come to him and be like, "Hey, you can be in our offense where we score 40 a game. You can be the feature back, and you can catch passes out of the backfield. Like and you get 20, 25 carries a game. Well, in our offense, I don't know if we'll have a back like that, but he'll probably split time with Small. But still, he'd be the feature back because I don't.
I'll tell you this though. Justin Williams, running back, I think we get before the end of this cycle.
Who is this?
Justin Williams. He was committed to West Virginia. He's a 6'2", 220-pound back, big back, like the one we've already got on the roster, D. Beckwith, who for some reason hasn't been allowed to see the field except for a couple of plays. I'll say that if Justin Williams commits to Tennessee this cycle, he'll finish with a 1,000-yard season before he leaves.
Gotcha. Next question.
Next question, at agree_Vols_82 asked us, why is Jimmy Hyams the way that he is? I will hang up and listen.
Let me get this. So there's a lot of god-awful blue checks out there, right? The Wokens of the world, Wokens of the world, Pat Forty's god-awful, Rutgers god-awful. What is Hyams like? I don't have a problem with Hyams. He's kind of a goober sometimes. I'm probably going to get killed for this. I actually like his show with Wilkerson. I love Wilkerson. Now, the only thing that rubbed me the wrong way with Hyams was that he said the attendance at the Vandy game was 50,000. I've been to that game. I've been to that stadium forever, and I know what an empty stadium looks like. That was not 50,000. That was what they said. It was like 73,000. I know they're not always accurate with the numbers, but it was not 50,000. I would look at the beginning of the game. I looked around. Me and DR were sitting there, and like it wasn't like shoulder to shoulder packed, but there was no patches. Now, if you look under the scoreboard, that whole section over from the scoreboard has been empty all season long. And I'm not 100%, but I maybe think that's a visitor section. But those tickets are getting sold from us and the visitors. But I've seen that stadium when it's nobody shows up, and that was not 50,000.
COVID was 20%. I mean, that's
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah. But as far as Jimmy Hyams go, like, he doesn't post his political left-wing bullshit. Like, Woken has his god-awful takes with his Shiano thing and all that, and the Conzo love fest. Jimmy Hyams don't do that. He's just a goober sometimes. But I don't have a problem with him. What about you, Bandit?
Let me start this question by saying this. I'm a John Wilkerson stan.
Love with John Wilkerson.
Absolutely love John Wilkerson. I can't get the amount of John Wilkerson I want to get because he's on a show with Jimmy Hyams. I can't fucking stand this guy. John Wilkerson gets paid. Jimmy Hyams gets paid to talk on the radio about sports, and I don't have that long to drive to work. I usually catch the very beginning of the show. He's opening it up. He's talking about what they're going to talk about. I get home. I sit on the couch for an hour, and every fucking thing this dude said is on my Twitter feed. Jimmy Hyams, I swear to God, this dude sits behind a microphone and reads everything that comes across his Twitter timeline because it'll be word for word in Twitter form on somebody else's profile, everything he says. And fucking Jimmy Himes will say some shit, and John Wilkerson will speak up and be like, "Oh, no, Jimmy, that's wrong." And John Wilkerson is sitting there fact checking the tweets that Jimmy Himes is reading on fucking air.
Do y'all remember when he posted that gumbo, thinking that, oh, this is some good ass gumbo,
It had a fucking
and
egg
it went
in it.
viral. It went viral. It went to like, as bad as she is, it went to Jamel Hill, and like it went that big out there, and people were roasting him for that gumbo.
That was Jimmy Himes.
Yeah.
That nasty ass slot.
Yeah, it went viral. Like it had, like if you can go look at that tweet, hit quote tweets, and look at everybody responding to it on the quote tweets.
I remember. Now I saw. Oh God, that might take me just a minute. That'll take me too long.
Yeah, it was a long time.
That I was like, that shit's nasty, but I did not realize that was him.
Yeah.
I don't remember which game it was, but after one of the games this year, me, Lo's mom, my wife, and some other folks went to walk-ons after one of the games, and Jimmy Himes was there doing his radio show, and several times I yelled, "Jimmy Himes don't know shit."
He's the type of dude, like he's the one joke that it's been going on about him for years. He's always late to the source. Like a news will break, and like an hour later he'll confirm it and tweet it out. Like that was the big joke about him. Now he's getting his sources together. I can't believe you're making me stand for Jimmy freaking Himes.
You're cucking.
No. I guess it's a nostalgia thing. Like he's been doing it so long. I love the Vol Network because when I was a kid, John Wilkerson was doing the Vol scoreboard after games. I was with my grandfather. I was like 10, 11, 12. And I know Jimmy's been doing it forever. But I guess it's a nostalgia thing for me. I guess it's just whatever.
Jimmy Himes is the Knoxville radio version of Booger McFarland on Monday Night Football.
God almighty.
You guys
give John Wilkerson his own show.
Y'all took very polar opposite stances on this, and I'm just sitting here like I really don't even know the dude. I'm not going to.
The only radio show Lo listens to is her own. Right. So she don't even know who these guys are. I
don't have the time. Shit.
Yeah.
You don't need to listen to anybody else. You got this.
Interesting takes though, but I'm just going to leave it in the middle. I'll let y'all take that one. Very last question. At Stacy Bell asked us, where will we be ranked in recruiting?
So, man, I looked at the recruiting rankings today and I was not happy. So, right now we're 20th. And I always said that you can be 7th in the nation, but 5th in the SEC. And if you're 5th in the SEC, you're behind, right? So we're 20th in the nation, and we're 8th in the SEC. You know what's pathetic? South Carolina, Arkansas, Kentucky, and Missouri's ahead of us to this point. Now, we got a couple of weeks. We got February. We got transfer. I don't think transfers count against the rankings, do they? I don't think.
They don't.
Okay.
They don't get. Yeah.
So that's not good. Now, we can praise Heupel. He can get these guys open down the sideline. He can light up the scoreboard. One of my question marks before coming into the season was defense. He kind of check-marked that off a little bit. It kind of depth wore out probably, and our ranking went higher. Okay, that's fine. Recruiting. Got to recruit the Jimmies and the Joes if you want to compete. And to this point, maybe, and I said this a couple weeks ago, he still hasn't had that one recruit that's like the staple of his class. And I'm hoping that one recruit sometimes can get more and more coming. They kind of recruit guys talented with them to come. But we're still waiting on it. But we'll see in a couple weeks what he does. Bandit?
I think this class will finish around 15th, maybe 14 or 13th. But I think you'll see after the next season starts, it might sneak into the top 10 because, like Leland was just hitting on, I think this staff will kill it in the transfer portal again, and transfers don't receive their rating until after the beginning of the next season. A lot of the times, if they do rate them during the transfer process, they just slap a 3-star on them, and then they go back and reevaluate after. I think the transfer portal is going to be huge, not just this year, or not just last year. Obviously, we needed help from the transfer portal, but with the possible impending sanctions still from the NCAA, scholarship reductions, I think this year and looking even into next year already, the transfer portal will be huge. So I would put us around 15th, maybe sneak into top 10 after final ratings come out on some of our transfers.
So you were talking earlier about this 247 updating quick throughout the day. I wrote these notes down probably today around lunchtime. So we moved up 2 spots in a span of 5 hours or so. So we're at 18th. We actually passed South Carolina. Huh. And really, it doesn't really take a lot to get in the top 10. Sometimes you can have more numbers, not necessarily better quality. You can just have more numbers than everybody else, and you can kind of weasel your way up. Now, I prefer to have, I want my quality to be great. Like quantity right now is what we need because we need bodies, but you want quality in your stuff. So you could get a couple 4-stars and easily be in the top 10 in a couple weeks when signing day. Is it next week or the week after?
Next Wednesday.
Okay, next week.
That's the hourly signing day.
I got to in real quick.
Okay.
Somebody said Florida was at 70th and Butch Jones was at 71.
Yep.
That's funny as shit.
Florida's down to 8 commits.
So Golden Child, that everybody loves, Lane Kiffin, he is at 32. And you think that he could roll out, and when that one year he was with us, he got like Nukees Richardson and the who was the running back, Brown. He was like the number 1 player in the country.
Bryce
Brown. So Mr. Wonder Boy, he's at 32 right now. Baylor just won the Big 12. They're at 35. Purdue, who we play, they're at 36. Iowa, number 1 team or number 1 defense in the country. Played for the Big 10 title, all that stuff. They're at 39. But to where we need to be a little higher. But like some of these big names, but that's crazy about Florida. They're losing. Yeah. I'm hoping that we get in on some of those guys that's decommitting from them.
There's so many schools in our area that we need to be poaching from. I mean, you look at the decommits at Oklahoma, the decommits at LSU, Florida, Clemson losing Brent Venables. Their defensive commits should be, questioning their future. I hate the term poach, but we need to be poaching these dudes.
I fully agree. My final take on this is like I said before, earlier in the pod, we talked about playoffs and there's only a couple teams. Like I said, I really think that's going to change because these guys, and with coaches leaving and all of this stuff just shaking it up, the transfer portal really gives them an option because ultimately a lot of these guys want to go pro, right? And if I was thinking that, I'm going to go somewhere where I play immediately and I am the freaking star and I am setting records. I'm not going to go sit my ass 3rd string at Alabama, or I'm definitely not going to go to Georgia and sit, on that bench either. I'm going to go somewhere where I get meaningful minutes and exposure, and they're talking about me on every network. That's where I'm going. And ultimately, I fully trust our coaching staff. I think they're going to pull some big steals. I said we would finish up around 15th by the end of this in ranking for recruiting. But like I've said always, just player development and coachability goes a long way. This season proves that to us. So that's kind of my last take on it.
Any more questions?
That is it.
Okay, before we head out, I just want to talk about the Music City Bowl just for 1 second. So the other day, tickets, I was online for like 4 hours. First off, it pissed me off they didn't announce the bowl till like 4. So it wasted my whole NFL Sunday. Secondly, so I checked it at So what I would do is I would find my section, find my tickets, and I'd add them to my cart. When I added them to my cart, it only lets you hold those tickets for like 7 minutes. So after the 7 minutes went off, I'd go back, find my tickets, put them back in the cart. So around 1 o'clock, they went up $100. All 4 tickets, right? That includes like the fees and all that stuff. So when they finally announced it, they went up another $30-$40. So I just think that's, and I kind of apologize to Ticketmaster. It wasn't only Ticketmaster; they were just the first ones to do it. The rest of the secondary sites, and by the way, I think these secondary sites are god awful. Try your best to never buy tickets from these secondary sites. They jack the prices up. They add fees. Like I have to deal with it with watching the Cowboys play. Like it's ridiculous. So, like a family of 4. I mean, you can go to an MLB game for less than $40 if you find the right tickets. Like I went to a Braves game last year; it was like $7. Football in all sports, in the pro and in college, is different for some reason. It's ridiculous. So, as soon as Brett McMurphy announced it, that wasn't the official time. It went up, and then when the Music City Bowl Twitter account announced it, it went up. Now, I don't know if it was a Tennessee thing. They know Tennessee fans are crazy. But my section started out at like $105 per ticket. And Bandit, I think you ended up buying section 119. We didn't end up buying them. So now we told you to sit with us. We can't sit with you. I'm pissed about that. Because by the time – because I didn't want to buy them and then them announce that we were going to like Outback Bowl, and then I'm stuck with these tickets. So I waited till they announced it. By the time that they announced it, that my section was 185. Went from 105 to 185. So I thought I was slick. I got sent a link to Purdue's website, went on to Purdue's website, actually charged my credit card for 4 tickets. They sent me an email today. They're going to refund me the money. They don't have enough. So what it is that the SEC has a deal or something with an allotment. The schools don't get it. The secondary sites get it. And the Big Ten, the Purdue themselves get an allotment to send out to their season ticket holders. It's SEC is fucked when it comes to that. It's bullcrap. So long story short, I don't have tickets to this point. At some point, I'm either going to wait until they'll slide down, which I think they will. So anybody who doesn't have tickets, wait 2 weeks and then go from there slowly, and the tickets on Ticketmaster will slowly come down. Now, if that doesn't work, I'm just going to buy nosebleeds. But a couple people have hit me up and want to hang out and maybe tailgate or do something. We're going to find some way to do something. Now, Bandit, you're a Titans cuck, and you know more about Nashville and tailgating in the parking lot and all that. So do you need a pass? Like, do you need a tailgating pass, or can you just buy a spot and tailgate in the spot?
You'll need a parking pass, but I'll go ahead and tell you where we'll be. There's a lot. If you look at an actual Titans parking pass map, it'll be across the intersection from Lot A. People aren't going to be able to go off what I'm saying, but I'll tweet out the address. I think it's $20 a spot. It's called main event parking. But
so it's just the parking, and then you can do whatever you want in the parking, right?
Yeah, they got a big field back in the back. A lot of the times for Titans games, the Bussin' with the Boys podcast is set up back there in the back. Will Compton and Taylor Lewan, but that's most definitely where I'll be.
Where are you going up there Thursday morning?
Yeah, I'll leave out
what
here.
time? What time are you leaving up there?
Early.
Okay, yeah, me too. I wanted to make it a whole day thing. You know, I know people are so pissed that we're going to Music City. I know there was a player too. They want to go to Florida. I know. I wish for them they were going to Florida, but for me, I'm glad they're going to Nashville because I want to go. I can't stand paying money on a hotel. I know you wanted to, but close. The whole stadium's probably going to be orange. Lo, you're going for the for the basketball game.
I'm going for basketball. I'll be up there next weekend. I'm hoping to God that it is a better performance than last night. But I couldn't get off work for the bowl game. But that's all right. I've taken a lot of trips this year and wanted to save some PTO. And
yeah,
things. So I'm solid. I'm good with the decision. But yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, you got to talk shit to Penny. He's a bitch. But yeah, so we're going to try to do something, get together for the Mute City Bowl. So any last thoughts? That was a pretty cool podcast. We went almost 2 hours.
I know, it was long. I had fun.
But thanks for
I gotta
shout out
pee.
to Mr. Charters for coming on talking Purdue. We got a couple guests the next couple weeks, including a crosstalk with Purdue podcast in 2 weeks, and we may have a guest next week, so we'll see. But any last thoughts before we head out? Okay.
I would just say, and you know, if anybody listens this deep into the pod, I'm sure somebody does at some point in their work week. If you haven't bought tickets for the Music City Bowl yet, don't do it till like the day before. I've been doing bowl season for a while. I usually try to make a couple bowls other than the Tennessee Bowl if they're in one. If you would have went on to a second party or third party ticket service 2 weeks ago, you could have probably bought tickets to any bowl Tennessee was eligible for. Probably bought 2 tickets to every one of those bowls.
Lower level for $50 or something.
$50, and then Tennessee gets announced to one, and you sell the other ones for triple once they're announced. If people are already tweeting about the prices of the bowl tickets, you've waited too late, and just keep waiting, because the day before you'll be able to sell them or buy them from somebody. I'm telling you, by December 29th, they'll be $40.
And as a fan of the most popular NFL team, Bandit, the Cowboys, anytime, every year, what I do, and I had to learn this the hard way, you wait until the week before, and and buyers or sellers will get desperate and they'll drop the price. Do not buy them in the next couple weeks. Wait at least a week before the game. But we can head out, peeps. Who's that?
Oh, Jesus.
Is that Lee Corso?
It's Jerry Jones.
Oh,
Ew.
God.
Did you see that picture I took of him, like, making out with his brother or
son.
something?
He was kissing him on the cheek. Good God.
No, he wasn't.
Tongue and his son.
Did you hear about him hinting like this? There was a TMZ article yesterday that he hinted about on his days off of the Cowboys. He sits around naked on the couch.
Naked.
Well, that's like the rest of us. I mean, don't we all do that?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I totally do that.
Viewership just went up.
It's my couch.
Keep talking low. The viewers are going up.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, guys. That was fun. DR, come back next week.
See y'all later.
Peace.
Yeah.